Well, I probably should have tested the microphone beforehand, but okay, it looks like it's working. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to a awesome live training that I'm going to be holding tonight. Um, Getting myself settled in here because I'm a little bit behind, in terms of getting to the recording here and just getting everything set up. But looks like we're good to go. So if you can hear me, let me know because I didn't actually get to check beforehand. Just making sure that this is actually streaming at this point. Okay, so uh, sorry for the delay. Let's dive in. If so, yeah, if you can hear me, let me know. I think I am actually being audible at this point. But if you can hear me, just put that in the chat. I see we got a few viewers already on, so great to have you here. Let me know who's here because if you put comments into the chat, I won't actually be able to see the person who's commenting, but I appreciate what you're sharing. And let's dive in. So, oh, cool, it is showing up actually. That's great. Hey, Tim, great to see you. Okay, so it's only taken me a minute and a half to get into this topic, so here we are. So tonight I wanted to cover a really, really cool topic that is always sort of central to my life and many of the people that I get to be in conversation with around healing the past and really allowing the healing of the past to create the future that we want. And there are some really really interesting pieces around this that I would say that are not super mainstream. So I'm going to be covering some of the places that I've explored in the past couple of years and how I work with this generally on a daily basis, both for myself and for the people that I get to work with. Um, this area of bringing healing to the past so that we can actually create an empowered future is something that I do a lot of work with my clients in a lot of different ways. So, if that's something that you're interested in terms of, exploring and like, hey, how can Andrew support me? Well, this is definitely an area that I can support you. So if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to check out the link that I put in the comments after this. And with regards to the private coaching that I do and the authentic man, that comment or that link will be in the comments. And if you are interested to book a call with me, you can either reach out to me by putting something in the comments, just saying that you're interested, sending me a message, or checking out my website and booking a call through there. So this topic specifically has been coming up a lot lately in terms of the work that I'm doing with people, and it comes up in a lot of different ways. But what I kind of notice are some of the fundamental pieces is that as human beings, when we look at our lives, we often look at our lives from a place of absolutes. That how we see ourselves or we see the past, that often it's kind of this like static, concrete way of looking at things. Some easy ways to kind of like explore this, would be like, oh, I'm a nice guy, or um, I have an anger problem, or there's so many places that we could look here. I'm trying to kind of think of some on the spot, which never goes well. Or like, oh, here's a great one. Like, I'm lazy. I, um, you know, people don't like me, right? And so again, like those are just some examples, but oftentimes what happened is that mentality has been created through past experiences and the past ways that we see ourselves. As somebody just put in, I have a fear issue, right? So fear is one that can show up as well. And oftentimes when we are in relationship with other people, our intimate relationships, friendships, coworkers, we often see people through this static lens as well. That person is judgmental. That person is cold and callous. There's many ways that we can relate to that. This person hurt me. This person did this. And when we relate to that from a place of that staticness of static, this absolute, it can be really hard to create a different future. And so again, this is a lot of the work that I've been doing over these last few years, is really expanding on both, well, like really just healing the past and really being able to be in the awareness of the past and the impacts of the past, so as to actually create a different future, to really have a, I like to call it a clean slate, to be able to create the future. So let me know, as you're listening to this, what resonates for you, and any comments that you have around this. What's present for you? And I'm going to just start diving into a couple areas where I often will support people from, in this work. So the first one, and this has been such a key piece that I took from a program. I was kind of doing some work around this, prior to going into accomplishment coaching, but accomplishment coaching has really allowed me to explore this, in a deeper way. And what I would call is being able to separate what's the facts of life from the interpretation. So oftentimes, as I said, we relate to life from a place of facts. I'm lazy. I'm stupid. That person doesn't care about me. They hate me. If you notice, those are very static, um, like concrete ways of seeing the world. When we see the world from that place, it can be really hard to shift, because that's how we see the world. We 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 can't see ourselves or others in any different way, and so we just go through life from that place. I'm a bad person, I'm a nice guy that, I can't change. So change really becomes something that feels in the distant. It feels like it never comes, because we're relating to life from this place of absolutes. So the thing that we want to start to do is start to separate what are the actual facts from how we're interpreting the world. How are we interpreting the situation? And oftentimes, the catch here is that life is an interpretation, right? Yes, there, well, really, what is laziness? What is stupidity? What are all these concepts? In the end, they're just concepts. There are ways that we create the world. There are ways that, the environment has shaped us. And so when we can start to separate, like, what does this actually mean? Am I always lazy? Am I always angry? Am I sad? Is this person always treating me this way? When we can start to separate that and see, like, this is an interpretation of how I see the world, it starts to really shift things, and getting into that practice of being in that awareness. I'll share a story of a client that I worked with that, this is it was such a cool experience to see. So, when I first started working with this client, very much so saw the world in this place of absolutes. I have a faith. I see the world in this light. And, in the beginning, as we started to do some work together, this was really confronting for this individual, because they're like, like, I could, you know, I could be, who knows, like, let's think of something. Like, I could be an angry person, but also, like, calm. Probably not the best example, maybe you guys can help me out with this, but, like, um, really just like, oh, I can be two things. I could be a confident individual and an unconfident individual, and starting to see, like, oh yeah, there's real, like, interpretations to even that. And so it was amazing to see, through the experience of working with this individual, um, how opening themselves up to this allowed them to see the world in a much more dynamic and open way. Anything else I want to share around that? Yeah, just really that being able to see that we have these interpretations of the world, how we see ourselves and how we see others, and that there can actually be some adaptiveness to that. Like, we can actually change the qualities that we have. That's a huge game changer. And then this leads into the next part that, is another place that's been really relevant for me, and a place that I often see people get hung up on, is that people, when they relate to themselves from the past or how they relate to others, you'll notice that, like, they really hold on to to the act or the event or what's happened. And what that does is it creates a dynamic where um, they're just holding baggage for years and years and years. People hold on to this baggage, and it's the quote that I love from psycho-cybernetics, and I don't know exactly where it came from, but this idea that in life, when we can have a short leash, when we can have sort of a short memory of these things, it actually leads to a more fulfilling and desirable life. Because again, we can look at how others have treated us and see that the more we hold on to that anger, that resentment over time, it just becomes this burden that really weighs us down. So that's sort of one place to look. And then the other place to look is actually with ourselves. That oftentimes, if we lash out at somebody, or if we have an experience of failure in our life, we often will like hold on to that, and that starts to create the dynamic into the future. Right, I failed once, so I'm probably going to fail again. And so the practice here is start to release that energy a little bit. Yes, I showed up angry in this argument, but can you actually like take responsibility for that, but shift it for the future? Maybe the next time, you bring some forgiveness to yourself in that moment, and shift how you're showing up in the future. And same thing with others. It kind of goes into my next point that I'm going to make, but like noticing that, we often hold judgment over how others are showing up. Can we release that? Yes, that person showed up angry with me this time. Can I bring some forgiveness to that? And I love this line that I often hear a lot is like, we can forgive the person and not necessarily forgive the act. So if you feel like, I can't actually like forgive what this person has done to me, can you actually forgive the person but not forgive the act? That's even a place just to start, right? Is letting go and releasing the emotional hold and seeing what that can create for you. So as I and let me know, what are you taking away from this as you're listening? Anything like showing up for you? The next place of as we kind of look to release the past is really seeing yourself and others as whole people. So recognizing that we all have moments of laziness, anger, disgust, frustration. And the one thing that I always like to connect to in this is like, yeah, but is that how you always show up? Are you always that person? Because it can be easy to think of ourselves as like, I'm a lazy person. And look, I have all these examples of my life where I show up as lazy. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. I'm not going to argue that with you. But is that how you are in your entire life? My guess is no. It's the same thing with confidence, right? Oftentimes people be like, I'm just an unconfident person. And it's like, yes, there are moments where that's going to show up in your life, but like I'm sure you can think about the times where you've been confident in your life. And another great place is seeing this in others, right? Oftentimes, when I've been hurt or somebody frustrates me, a place that I just connect to is like, yeah, but is this how this person always shows up? Most of the time it's not. If people are showing up in your life, angry and bitter, well, that's a different story. But I would say most of the time in our relationships, it's not necessarily going to be that way. So, and another way that I like to explore this as well is also looking at like in those moments where people are feeling sadness, anger, whatever is showing up for them, can you actually connect to the good within them? Can you see that this person is really a human being? They have their faults. You have your faults. And, can you release that? Can you release that energy and just see the goodness there? So, as I mentioned this point, it's really about seeing yourself and others as whole people. So, what you can start to see is what we're really looking to do is bring healing to the past, bring healing to um, how the past is gone, how we've shown up in the past, how others have shown up in the past. And we energetically want to release that, because as we start to release those burdens, those frustrations, it creates a lightness. It creates a opening for a new future. And this is where, again, the book Psycho-Cybernetics is really amazing. And if you haven't read that book before, I check it out. Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, because a key concept in that book talks about how oftentimes we create our future from how the past is gone. I cannot tell you enough about how much when I'm in conversation with people that the past is influencing what they think they have the ability to create, what they feel like they deserve. Um, it shows up in every conversation in some way. For myself as well, even when I'm working with coaches, I'm much more aware of this, and I have my own blind spots there. This is work that continues on, over the years, but we by being able to have more awareness of the past and bringing that forgiveness and that healing, it allows us to start to open up to create that new future. Really have, as I've mentioned earlier in this video, an open slate. When we look to create a different future, we want to have a clean slate in how we're approaching it. Because if we're dictating things based on how the past has been, how our experience has been, it's going to have an impact on what we see as possible. Let me see what else I want to say. Yeah. And so, again, even as an example for yourself, is, just think for a moment, what's a goal? What's something that you want in your life? If catching this now or you're catching this on replay, feel free to share it in the comments as well and sit with it. What's the thing that you want to have in your life? Give you a minute for that. So whether you share it or not, just notice for yourself, okay, does that feel clean? Does that feel open? Does it feel like that is coming from a place of possibility? Or do you notice that there's the past influencing it, that there's some sort of stranglehold there? So again, the first place is really being in the awareness of it, being aware of like, oh, where might past influences or experiences be creating what I see next for myself? Oh, I feel like I shared a lot there. Please feel free to share any insights or takeaways that you're taking from this video recording right now. I'd say a big thing here, a big thing in terms of takeaways is one, being able to separate what we see as concrete facts, how we see things showing up in our lives, being able to separate those, how we see concrete facts, the ways we show up, like the characteristics that we feel like we can't change, and actually seeing that it's an interpretation. That's a huge piece. Being able to see that how we're creating our world is often through interpretations. um, Huge thing to take away. And then this other piece of, we've talked about a few pieces here, in the conversation, but really being able to release the energy of the past, bringing forgiveness to ourselves, bringing forgiveness to others, allows us to actually step into a new future. So I'd be curious about any comments you have, anything that's shown up for you in this conversation, places that you might have questions, or you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense to me at all, or like that's BS. Here's an example, why this doesn't make sense. Please feel free to share. Um, what else do I have for you? This is the work. I mean, truly, being able to bring healing to our lives, bring healing to our relationships. Um, this is the work. It really, truly transforms how life goes. And oftentimes, a lot of this work is within, and really just slowing down and connecting to, where do we need healing as we move about our lives. So, as I said, well, actually, I saw a comment here. So it says Facebook user, so I can't see your name, but it says, it's hard to heal from the past when those that I've hurt can't move past the hurt I've caused, even though I've forgiven myself and I'm ready to move forward. Yeah, absolutely. And so, um, where's the wise answer here? I mean, yeah, it's a really, beautiful share. it's a place really to come back into conversation with if you can, and just see like what else is still remaining there, what else maybe hasn't been said, or what else does that person need the opportunity to share if there's that possibility there. um and great step in allowing and forgiving yourself and being ready to move forward if there is that opportunity to have those conversations where um coming from that place of forgiveness for yourself, can you hold that space for the other person? And sometimes people aren't ready. They're not ready or they're not willing. And again, that's a great place that you've come to where you've forgiven yourself. Um, yeah, let me know if you have any other pieces around that. So the last thing that I was trying to keep this video to 15 minutes. I went a few minutes over, but the last thing I'll say to this is again, like there's been a lot of the work that I've done these last few years, and the work is not done. That's the beautiful thing about this. This is the transformational path. Is that we all continue on this path together and really explore these things. But this is a lot of the work that I've been doing and continue to deepen into. And if you feel that there's an opportunity for us to just be in conversation around this, a place where maybe you want some support, you just want to be heard, please feel free to share with me. You can send me a message, or send me an email, or check out my website. I'll share links to all that as well. And again, this is the work that I do in my program called The Authentic Man, where these are just conversations that we have, these real deep conversations that are happening, where there's a lot of healing. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'll make sure to put a link in the comments below. But yeah, thanks for being here. Awesome to just be in conversation with you all. Happy to answer any questions that come up afterwards after you've watched this video. And yeah, thanks so much. Have a great evening and talk to you soon. Bye for now.